Hello, bienvenidos al nuevo episodio del podcast del Salón de Idiomas. Hi Rox!
Hi Alonso, how's it going?
It's going pretty fine. Now, the only thing that I wanted to talk to you is that I have been thinking, we have been focusing so much on, let's say, the certificates and how passionate it is to learn English and languages. However, I believe that we haven't delved into how useful this can be, haven't we?
Indeed, yeah, especially in other fields, right? Like, I don't know, job interviews?
Yeah, I mean, more useful than getting a job because you speak English.
Indeed, yeah.
So now in this global community that we live in, and it's necessary that we are able to also provide this information, like our skills and all that, in English. That's what I believe would be great to talk about.
Definitely, yeah. One thing is preparing for an official exam and having a certificate, but another thing is actually, mastering the language in certain situations which are compulsory in our life, or almost, we face them pretty often, like doing a job interview.
Yeah. Now, before we actually have the job interview, what do we have to do?
Prepare your CV.
And perhaps write a nice cover letter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's get started with this. What's the first thing that we should consider when writing our CV?
Okay, I don't know. You tell me.
Well, the first thing that I would have is a nice picture, You have to look decent.
Even though that depends on the country. There are many countries where the picture is not that important. Yet, I do believe it is.
Well, but you gotta look nice, don't you? No, but I mean, basically, what you have to convey here is your skills, as well as all your education and perhaps other aspects that they would consider useful in the company that you want to work with. Now, one thing that I believe that is necessary is to have a specific CV for the job that you're applying, since we all have many skills that perhaps are not really relevant in some places. So we might want to skip those, and we just want to focus on the ones that they could find convenient, right?
Yes, and I would add something else. You might have worked in plenty of different places. Yet that's not necessarily that important depending on the job you're applying for. I mean, if for instance someone comes here at Salón de Idiomas and they apply for a job as a teacher, if we see experience in plenty of different workplaces which are even not, they aren't remotely, similar to the job they should be performing here, I believe that's a bit just adding too much information.
Right?
So you should kind of tailor what you write on your CV, have a nice picture, know what you're writing about. Don't add too many jobs you've done, especially if they're not related. And I have a different advice as well. One thing that human resources look at when they get a CV is for how long you have been working in a specific job position. So if you encounter many positions you've been covering, you've been working on, and we see that there's been just a span of 3 months in one job, or you change your job 4 times in a specific year, that's not that positive for the ones who are actually evaluating your CV.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's a really common question that they find gaps in your work history, they'll be like, what does this mean? What were you doing? So perhaps you might want to cover that up with us. I don't know, you were learning some kind of skills. You were trying to brush up on something else.
If there's a gap, or if you've done too many things changing your job too many times, that's as well a red flag.
Yeah, definitely. They'll be like, you are either not committed or perhaps you just simply don't meet expectations here.
Yeah, or too troublesome. I don't know.
Yeah. Now, I have to share that there was that is really relevant to point out the specific information and not just like shoving all the information that you know into it. No, since like once I applied for a job, they were like, okay, this looks nice. Now, why did you write here that you worked as a cook for 6 months? And I was like, oh.
As a cook?
Yeah, and I was like applying for an English
You see, so that's it, right? So you apply for a job position as a teacher, but you tell us about your time when you work as a cook. It's like, indeed, that's different. It's like, do you want to just show that you work in different places? To what extent is that relevant to the job?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that they were just trying to make fun of me because they were like, yeah, you gave us a wrong CV. This CV was supposed to be delivered for someone else.
For some restaurants.
Yeah. So I ended up feeling a little bit ashamed. I was like, oh, right.
We've all been there. I remember when I was a student, I hardly had an experience. So I will grab to any kind of short courses I might have attended or tiny, like part-time jobs I would have done. I did just because I wanted to, to put that I have like plenty of experience there on my CV. Well, in those cases, if you're starting, you just finish university or something, I would recommend to focus much more on your studies and on your enthusiasm and focus a lot on the willingness of why you want to apply for that specific job or something like that, because that's really important.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when a CV is not enough, well, that's where these nice cover letters take place.
Indeed. They are the safeguard.
Now, many people tend to not understand the difference between a CV and a cover letter. However, these are completely different. Simply to put it in simple words, perhaps you want to go deeper with this. Here, with a CV, you just point out this is what I do and this is what I am or whatever.
Yeah, it's just a summary of your experience and your studies and some hobbies or whatever.
Yeah. However, in the cover letter, this is where you're going to explain why you could be a great asset in the company and why they should at least give you the opportunity to have the job interview. So
yeah, that's where you have to show that you know how to express yourself, to show enthusiasm. I believe it's the best way of actually showing your personality through that piece of paper that you write along with your CV, called cover letter or resume.
Yeah. There was another time where I made the same mistake of having a kind of a neutral or average cover letter, and then I sent a cover letter to an academy. I was saying, I'm really looking forward to innovating here, and I love changing and giving new ideas and perspectives and all that. And they were like, what we're looking here is for a person who just sticks to the rules and that's it. We're not trying to do anything.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, you have to be careful before that. Yeah. You never know what they actually, what they're like.
Yeah. I guess that this happens since I didn't do enough research, which is the first thing that you want to do when you are provided with a job interview as well, right?
I think that's paramount. Knowing who is going to interview you, knowing the company you might end up working for, and getting to know some different aspects which are not the typical ones you might think they just provide.
Exactly.
For instance, sometimes when there are people coming here for job interviews, at times we might ask them, what do you know about the school? What do you know about Salón de Idiomas? And more often than not, some of them might not even have,
Yeah, be
they hardly know anything.
I just clicked in it.
Yeah, and that just goes to show like your enthusiasm towards the position. So if you're really willing to work here, we take for granted that you make just a bit of an effort, like a minute search on your telephone to see where you're going, not just Google Maps to see the location where you're coming for the job interview.
It takes me 30 minutes to get there. No, I'm not applying for that job.
Yeah, where it's like, I saw you have like an interesting YouTube channel, or I saw an Instagram or whatever. So that's, I don't know, you create an impression. You make a pretty good impression if you take a bit of a time to study to study the company is going to interview you.
Yeah, you're definitely going to stand out if you do this. Like they will just simply know that you have cared enough to at least look at the profile in LinkedIn or something. So yeah. Now you have mentioned some like questions. I don't want to talk about, let's say, the real like super common questions like tell me about yourself. Well, here we just want to
questions referring the job interview.
Yeah, referring the job interview.
Yeah.
So a classical question would be, what are your weaknesses?
Honestly, I will start with the classical question, which will be tell us about yourself, which is like the first thing. It goes without saying that you should be knowing what you have to tell there. What I recommend, and you might agree or tell me otherwise if you don't, but don't make it too long. Don't talk too much. I mean, you talk, but strike a balance, and don't linger for too long, and don't talk for too short either. So have I will say like a minute answer, it shouldn't take longer than a minute. Talk mostly about, looking, if you want, I don't know, say how old you are, your job, why you're interested in this position. Yeah. Of course, where you're from or something, but just leave it for them to ask you more questions, because if you give too much information for the beginning,
otherwise you're giving too much information, and either they're gonna like stop caring about it, or they're not gonna like know what to focus on, what they want to actually delve into later.
So don't get bogged down into too many details. They are there to ask you. So be concise. And if, of course, the interview is in English, make sure that you set a nice standards by using pretty nice vocabulary or business-related vocabulary. Don't make it too flourishing, but don't use either the typical simple words, However, I believe that's quite a piece of cake, the introduction.
Yeah.
Now, what about the questions?
Well, I mean, we all know this from the movies and from everywhere, and it's totally like, I don't know, like a cliche. However, it's definitely a really solid question. What are your weaknesses? So what should we focus on here?
That's a good one, your weaknesses. The most important thing, I would say, would be to be honest. Yeah, I know it sounds weird, but don't Google like, what should I be saying if I'm asked about my weaknesses in a job interview? Because most of the people who come and say, for example, who come here at Salón de Idiomas and they say, well, I need to have everything under control, and I'm too organized, and I'm a perfectionist. I know they went to Google and they did that, they thought of it, and they didn't run a bit the extra mile to see that there are different ways of actually answering the question. So from that, I know that you're actually covering something, you're hiding something,
Yeah, exactly.
You're hiding something. So what I would recommend is to be honest, yet minimizing your weaknesses.
There you are. You are. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good way. That's a great strategy. Keep in mind.
Don't say, well, for example, if you're big-headed, like a stubborn person, you can make that up in such a way that is welcoming to be heard by the interviewer. For instance, at times, I might get a bit too stuck to my views, but that's only because I've done my research.
There you are.
However,
oh my god, that sounds great.
Yeah. And then you change to the solution, like to the better solution by saying, however, I've got quite a long time working around people, working in teams, so I know when to give in and when I am mistaken. And one of the most valuable things that you can learn is to listen to others and to learn from them.
There you are. Exactly.
But at the beginning, you minimize, like at times I might, there is a slight chance that I...
Happens, I don't know, once in a blue moon,
No, you're as stubborn as a bull. You just go there, these are my thoughts. No, but anyhow, stick a bit to the reality, to your own weaknesses, but make them a bit nicer to hear.
Yeah. Now, another common question is simply, why should we hire you? Perhaps this could go in the end. However, it's already common.
So what would you say there?
Here, I would just try, like, there's a really nice sentence that I love, is I believe that I can be a great asset to this company.
Okay, that's
like,
a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. It shows confidence, self-confidence.
Yeah. You also give this statement by pointing out how you are able to work with everybody, like you are also collaborative, that you don't mind perhaps like having to adapt to some challenging situations, perhaps not necessarily that you love working under pressure, because I don't think that anybody loves that. However, that you are able to handle these kind of things and kind of like
and you're
changes.
Used to?
Yeah, and all that. Yeah, of course, you're completely used to that.
Nothing new.
And like pointing out how your skills matches the vision or what the company is looking for.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good one. Because we are a valuable addition to the company.
There you are. Exactly. You see yourself as an asset.
Yeah. Okay. Now another one that people. I think all of us are afraid of facing the question.
Yeah.
What are your salary expectations?
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. This is a difficult, it's a tough nut to crack, honestly, because it's like, what am I going to say? I don't want to sound too, stuck up that I deserve a lot, but I don't want to sound that, to look like I actually don't deserve anything. So it's difficult to strike a balance and negotiate with someone you have no experience with beforehand.
Yeah.
So I don't know. My advice will be to really know your worth.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you know your worth, you sound confident, so you already start on a good footing by saying, that you don't expect to be paid less than your worth.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different ways. I think this is actually even like manipulating techniques. But on the first one, the first thing will be to admit that indeed salary is important, but not the most important thing for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because what do you think the most important thing for you would be?
To developing as a professional and trying to enhance yourself along with the company as well.
Okay, that's one. Yeah, and the other one would be to convey that you expect a salary that makes you feel, makes you, like the interviewee, feel like they are worth everything they've done so far, and that they feel, satisfied with the job they're doing. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what's your salary expectation? Well, something that makes me feel that I'm worth what I'm doing, because otherwise I wouldn't be that.
Yeah. I won't give it my 100% or something.
Yeah,
like
it's a bit difficult to be, but say it in such a sincere way that it doesn't sound manipulative, even though
exactly.
It might be, there might be something hidden. And then after these two things, the one that you said and the feelings, you can say that you're open for discussion.
Exactly. Yeah, that is imperative. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, okay, you're asking me about my job expectations, you're telling about your feelings, and then you tell them, but you go first, So you start with the numbers, and then we negotiate. Of course, with this nicely done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's another typical question about the 5-year 5 years.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I don't know, man. I don't even know what I'm going to have for breakfast. So you're going too far there.
Yeah, I don't know what day is today, and you're asking me about the...
Yeah. That's a really tough question as well. I mean, however, I believe that a great way to tackle this one is to point out how your perception of improvement goes along with the company as well. Like perhaps something that also shares what you could be doing for the company that is also beneficial for you.
Okay.
For instance, I don't know, like I'm looking forward to being in a situation where I'm more in the leadership role. Likewise, where my skills that I have honed through these years could prove to be useful for the growth of the company as well.
Oh my God, yeah, so that is like a pretty nice one. That's amazing. Okay, that's a perfect one. It's also, so this goes hand in hand with what you actually learned from the company or of the company before the interview. And that's important because it's not the same working for a big company, a big business. They've been in the market for years and they have like a really large number of employees working there, than working for a local company or not that big of a business. I'm saying this because I actually recall once we carried out, that was like a couple of years ago, we carried out like this group interview. So there were like 4 girls whom one colleague of mine and I were interviewing, and all of them kind of knew what to answer. They had most of these, picky questions, these specific questions, they had a bit of a formula for them. But one of them not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, she was really on level. No trickery hidden there. And I remember telling me that she had completely different plans for the future. And I felt really drawn towards that personality. And I knew that she wouldn't stay with us for long because she had other plans in her mind. But I also knew that she was a reliable person, or at least that's what I grasped. She was a reliable person, and she proved to be one. She worked with us for like a year or something, and she was one of the best teachers we had. And it goes without saying that sometimes you don't have to stick to these specific criteria you're supposed to be faking,
Yeah, we always have to remember that it is imperative to be ourselves, definitely.
For sure. Yeah.
And in some places, they are going to appreciate that. And if they don't appreciate that in some places, then you shouldn't be there. This also works for relationships, by the way.
Yeah. Counseling.
Yeah, we're keeping with the canceling trend. So one thing that I wanted to keep in mind as well is that regardless of the outcome of this job interview, I believe that it's really necessary not only to make an impression, but also to actually get some feedback. When the interview ends, I believe that it's great to ask for feedback if you don't get the job. Like, hey, well, if you decide that I am not fitting for this job, I would like you to tell me why, so I can perhaps work on perhaps what you find that I'm lacking or something like that.
Yeah, you're spot on there. Always ask for feedback. I think it shows this willingness to improve as a person. So you want that kind of people in your team. And I would add as well the importance of asking a question. As an interviewee, at the end, you're usually asked whether you have any questions for the company. And I do appreciate it when people ask us questions because they show interest in the job. So always have like a question there at hand, to ask. Find something interesting about the job, the position, the company, and ask it at the end.
Yeah, there you are. Exactly. And perhaps I don't know, not just like salary expectations or something like that. Just perhaps what are you expecting from some of your employees or something like that. Yeah, that would be useful as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there any specific vocabulary related to this topic, to the job interview?
Oh, well, definitely something like you got to keep in mind your body language. There you also have to have some problem solving techniques.
Okay.
Something like that as well. Something else?
Yeah, and some specific vocabulary for it, like use words like, I don't know, I believe I am highly skilled for this job, or I try to contribute here in the company with my expertise or experience.
Yeah, there you are. Great. So I believe that we have covered this really well, and I'm looking forward to knowing what you have to say about this.
Yeah, and if you pass your interviews.
Yeah, let us know.
Bye, guys.
Okay, so I hope that you have a great day and take care. Bye. Y bueno, ya aquí estoy de regreso y en el episodio de hoy, Rox y yo quisimos hablar de algo distinto, ya que si bien es cierto que aprender inglés es algo muy fascinante y enriquecedor en muchos aspectos, no hemos dado mucho énfasis en lo práctico que puede ser, sin tomar en cuenta el conseguir un certificado oficial, claro. Así que hoy estuvimos conversando de cómo podemos tener una entrevista de trabajo en inglés. Para empezar, antes que nada, antes de la entrevista de trabajo, tendremos que preparar nuestro currículum, CV. Por un lado, dependiendo del país, es importante que tengan una foto donde se vean profesionales. Por otro lado, siempre querrán transmitir o convey sus estudios, habilidades, experiencias. Nada que no se imaginen. Sin embargo, es buena idea tener un currículum específico para el trabajo al que estén aplicando, ya que en muchas ocasiones tenemos habilidades o experiencias que realmente no son muy relevantes para el puesto concreto o tengan un perfil no buscado para el empleo al que estamos aplicando. Por lo que es mejor enfocarnos en lo que a nuestros posibles empleadores les puede interesar. Y una cosa que Rox añade es que en recursos humanos se enfocan mucho en ver cuánto tiempo has estado trabajando en la misma posición, ya que si notan que has estado cambiando con demasiada frecuencia, puede ser negativo para ti, debido a que puede indicar que no estás realmente comprometido. También es cierto que tener gaps o huecos de tiempo en los que no estés trabajando puede verse mal, así que mejor mencionar algún tipo de curso o aprendizaje que estuvieras haciendo mientras tanto. A mí personalmente me pasó que una vez solicité trabajo por un puesto como maestro y la atención de los entrevistadores se desvió en por qué añadí que estuve trabajando como cocinero por 6 meses y me dijeron que les entregué un currículum equivocado. Me dio un poco de vergüenza, la verdad. En el caso de Rox, cuando era estudiante en la universidad, añadía cualquier tipo de experiencia que tenía solo para mostrar que era apta para el cargo. En este caso, Rox recomienda que se enfoquen más en sus estudios, entusiasmo y en por qué te interesa ese puesto de trabajo en concreto. Ahora, cuando el CV no es suficiente para convencer a los empleadores a que nos concedan una entrevista de trabajo, ahí es donde será necesario escribir una cover letter o una carta de presentación. En muchas ocasiones la gente no sabe cuál es la diferencia entre el currículum y la carta de presentación. En pocas palabras, con el primero explicas de manera más puntual y objetiva tus habilidades y experiencia, mientras que con la segunda te diriges a esa persona que querrá contratarte y explicarle por qué eres la persona ideal para el puesto y el motivo por el cual debería por lo menos darte la oportunidad de tener una entrevista de trabajo. Aquí puedes demostrar que eres capaz de expresarte de manera apropiada y mostrar tu entusiasmo y personalidad. De nuevo, estas cartas tienen que ser tailored o adaptadas al trabajo que estés aplicando. En mi caso, una vez envié una carta de presentación expresando que me gusta dar nuevas ideas e innovar, y su respuesta fue que realmente lo que buscaban era una persona que asumiera su rol sin muchos cambios. Como se podrán imaginar, no debió dar muy buena impresión. Por ello, hay que investigar un poco sobre el lugar al que se quiera aplicar, para saber cuáles son sus preferencias, filosofía de trabajo, ética y demás aspectos fundamentales. Además, como menciona Rox, puede darse el caso en que la empresa quiera saber por qué el candidato está interesado precisamente en trabajar para ellos y realmente deja muy buena impresión que hayas tomado tu tiempo para indagar un poco sobre la compañía. Continuando con la entrevista de trabajo per se, Rox y yo hablamos de las preguntas comunes y algunas maneras de cómo podrías responderlas de manera más adecuada. Empezando por... Cuéntanos de ti. Rox recomienda que no hables ni demasiado ni muy poco en esta pregunta. Alrededor de 1 minuto está bien. Di cosas como tu edad, de dónde vienes, por qué estás interesado en el puesto. Menciona cosas que se presten para que te hagan más preguntas. Don't get bogged down into too many details. O no te quedes estancado en muchos detalles. Y bueno, si la entrevista es en inglés, asegúrate de tener un vocabulario sofisticado, pero tampoco que sea muy decorado. Vamos ahora con la pregunta más común de todas, que es casi un cliché en las pelis, pero sin embargo, igual es una muy buena pregunta. ¿Cuáles son tus debilidades? Aquí, lo más importante es ser honesto. Enfocarte en alguna de tus debilidades reales, pero acompañando la respuesta de una solución que ya tienes a esa debilidad. Es importante no buscar en Google lo que habría que responder a esta pregunta. Por ejemplo, una de las típicas respuestas de Internet al hacer referencia a tus debilidades es decir que necesitas todo bajo control y que eres demasiado perfeccionista. Créannos, el entrevistador sabrá que esto es una típica respuesta y que fácilmente se encuentra en Google. Es decir, al contestar con clichés, los entrevistadores saben que te decantas por lo que es más simple y no te planteas alternativas a cómo responder esta pregunta y que es posible que estés ocultando tus debilidades más fuertes. Así que, sean honestos, pero minimicen sus debilidades. Pero no en el sentido de que no son importantes, sino más bien en el sentido de que son conscientes de ellas y que están haciendo esto y lo otro para mejorar. Otra pregunta muy común: ¿por qué deberíamos contratarte? Y esta, adelantándome un poco, recomiendo usar la frase I believe I can be a great asset to this company, que significa puedo aportar un valor alto a esta empresa. Esto muestra confianza y asertividad, siempre y cuando expliques por qué crees esto, cuáles son tus capacidades colaborativas y cómo tus habilidades se pueden emparejar con las necesidades y visión de la empresa. Sigamos con una de las preguntas más difíciles, a really tough nut to crack. ¿Cuáles son tus expectativas salariales? Veamos cómo respondemos sobre nuestras expectativas salariales sin sonar muy stuck up o hacernos parecer demasiado importantes, o por el contrario, que no merecemos mucho. Pues para esto es necesario saber nuestro propio valor. Esto nos dará confianza al decir una cifra. Rox recomienda decir que si bien el salario es importante, no es lo más importante, sino el sentir que lo que ganes refleje tu valor en lo que haces y tu impacto en tu puesto de trabajo. Pero esto hay que comunicarlo de manera sincera. Luego es recomendable decir que estamos abiertos a discutir el salario, pero eso sí, que sean ellos los que empiecen. Nuestro podcast incluye otra pregunta de entrevistas que también es bastante complicada. ¿Dónde te ves en 5 años? Y si bien es cierto que nada es seguro y a veces no sabemos ni siquiera lo que vamos a desayunar, una buena manera de abordar esta pregunta es enfocándonos en cómo nuestro crecimiento profesional se puede alinear con los objetivos de la empresa a futuro. Lo que estamos analizando Rox y yo es que en todo este proceso, a pesar de tener una estrategia, es bueno recordar que cuanto más auténticos seamos, mejor nos irá, especialmente si se trata de empresas más locales. Rox nos cuenta que una vez llevó a cabo una entrevista grupal con 3 candidatas, y donde ellas tenían muy bien preparadas todas sus respuestas. Sin embargo, la otra candidata fue muy honesta con todas sus respuestas, incluso cuando Rox le dijo dónde se ve en 5 años, y ella respondió que teniendo su propio negocio, cosa que no iba para nada en la línea de lo que Rox buscaba. Sin embargo, resulta que a Rox le llamó la atención de manera positiva y que esta chica fue la que terminó teniendo el trabajo. Aunque esto significase que no iba a quedar por mucho tiempo, a Rox le dio la impresión de que era una persona en que se podía confiar y de hecho, así fue. Por último, cuando la entrevista llegue a su fin, recomiendo que soliciten feedback a los entrevistadores, especialmente en el caso de que no estén seguros de conseguir el puesto. De la misma manera, tengan preparadas algunas preguntas que hacer acerca de la empresa o el puesto de trabajo. Esto siempre se aprecia ya que muestra un mayor grado de interés. Con respecto a un vocabulario útil, siempre pueden decir cosas como I have problem-solving techniques o I'm highly skilled for this job o también I'll try to contribute here in the company with my expertise. En la descripción del podcast les dejamos más vocabulario para que puedan utilizar. Y así terminamos el episodio de hoy. Espero que les haya gustado y si es así, no olviden darle al botón de like y suscribirse al canal de YouTube y seguirnos en todas nuestras redes sociales donde tienen muchísimo más contenido para que practiquen sus exámenes oficiales y también para que practiquen su inglés general. También espero que les vaya muy bien en esa entrevista de trabajo a todos los que estén buscando una y los espero en un próximo episodio. Take care. Bye.